My name is Kayla Staley, and this is my presentation on the science of learning. A quick overview of what we're going to go through today is the theories and concepts that were studied, the teaching and learning strategies that I applied in the classroom, as well as the efficacy of how they worked, and then what my further actions will be. So one of the main articles that I just found, I read the whole thing in detail because I found it so impactful. It was done by the deans for impact, and it was called The Science of Learning, and it was essentially a meta-analysis, more or less, of what we have on research about cognitive learning. And it aimed to answer 6 questions. How do we understand new ideas? How do students learn and retain new information? How do students problem solve? How do we transfer this information in or outside of the school building? How are students motivated to learn, and what motivates them? And then what are common misconceptions, and how do students think and learn? And all really, really good information. But one that I thought was so applicable to me right now that I really wanted to look further into was, how do students learn and retain new information? So I teach physical education, and in particular, the class that I really applied this with very intentionally and saw a great benefit from was in my elementary education classes. So basically the idea that the analysis and the study presents is, in order for students to learn new information, they need to be given the meaning of the information at the time they also receive the new information. So why are we doing what we're doing? Or what makes up what we're doing, right? Instead of a big concept that's hard for them to grasp, making it almost more bite-sized and making it have a meaning to them versus this abstract idea. And then also utilizing practice and recall. This in the article, they discussed that this isn't just you practice it for a week even. It is, we want to put what we learn out of our working memory and put it into our long-term memory so that we free up our working memory to do the tasks that are immediately in front of us. So the instance that I have for this of where I'm trying to get our ability in PE to run, jump, skip, hop, gallop, all these awesome locomotor things, I want it to get out of our working memory and into our long-term memory. And so one of the ways I'm doing this is by playing, and we played games that required those things, moving around, either running, jumping, hopping, skipping, leaping, all these things. But there's another element to the game that they're having to think about. So instead of I'm only thinking about I skip, step and a hop, step and a hop, step and a hop. Now, hopefully we're getting to the point where I'm trying to get to this spot and catch this ball, and I gallop to get there, or I skip to get there. And so it's going into their working memory where now they're focused on almost strategy more than they are even the skill. And that's when I know that they have moved the skill from a working memory to a long-term memory. I also use recall questions. Like, for instance, a skip and a hop is what we say when we skip, or excuse me, a step and a hop when we skip. Skip is made up of one step forward and then you hop on that foot. Understanding what hopping is important. Understanding what a step is important. And so for a gallop, it's a sideways shuffle, and making these connections and helping them make these connections. So I do a lot of quizzing in the beginning, like before we do all these things in our warm-ups, so we are always fresh in our minds. I will always quiz them to verbalize to me what this is. So that's kind of how I've been implementing the recall. And then the learning strategy that I implemented was active learning, and it's super applicable for physical education. And it's just the idea that students take part in the learning process through exploration of movement. They can take what my words are, what they know it is, and apply it. And so that's mainly the learning strategy that I found I really wanted to intentionally plan with. And so my application, like I said, the recall questions in the beginning, to make sure that we're able to verbalize. I think it's important to verbalize what you're doing, because that really shows me you understand what it is, and it's not just from memory. Because that was another thing the article or the study discussed, was oftentimes we can mistake familiarity with understanding. A student feels really familiar with something because they're around it a lot, but they maybe don't really know what it is. And so to make sure that we actually have genuine understanding. And then, as I also just described, my active learning was we practice it in an isolated manner in the warm-up. We skip, we run, we jump, we hop, we do all these things. And then we look to reinforce those and move them to the long-term memory via gameplay, where there's other strategies and things to take into account. Other people, it's not just me in my lane, it's lots of people moving around. So that's how I've been trying to implement it. And the efficacy, I found really positive results. I think that we're retaining it well. I think we're applying it really well. I would say in kindergarten, I probably have about 70% of students who, if I say, what is a skip, with automatically they're able to say a step and a hop. And I would say about 70% as well, probably the same 70% who can verbalize that, are also able to articulate it and show it to me. Excuse me. Right away. And probably one of the most things that I found helpful was I've been compounding days. So we started really, really simple. Makes obviously a lot of sense. But the more days in a row that we do something consecutively, the more proficient we are at it. And so I've noticed in some of the older grades, we do skipping forwards. We also do skipping backwards because it's a step and a hop. Again, it shows me that you understand what the concept is, that a skip is a step and a hop. If you can do it backwards, then I know you're grasping that. It's also a little bit of coordination too. But on the days that we don't do that in the warm-up, there's always a little bit of lag the next day, even if it's just one day. And so I'm seeing how building upon building upon building, especially in the immediate, since we've just started this kind of, is really helpful. And then it'll be something that we recall, hopefully like once a week or something like that. And then going forward, my biggest thing is I really like this way of programming, of teaching a skill, practicing it, and then application through gameplay. And the biggest thing that I think I could improve at is my questioning, the quality of the questions that I ask in the beginning. So skipping, hopping, jumping, those things, there's only so many questions you can really ask about those. But when we get into gameplay, or older kids, we're in a softball, baseball unit, changing my questions to be more higher level, not yes or no, not this answer, that answer, but more so think about it. What is the strategy here? Why is this way? And just using higher level questions could really elevate my lessons, as well as I think solidify understanding and reasoning, and give new meaning to why we're doing what we're doing. And lastly, here's my works cited page. Thank you for listening.